Welcome everyone to In the Hot Seat. For our repeat viewers, for our repeat viewers, you've seen this happen before, so we're good. It's not a problem. Thank you for joining us again. And if you're new to this show, every 2 weeks we put industry experts and our customers in the hot seat for lively discussion, some debate, and even a little discourse as we humanize the digital experience. All aspects of the customer life cycle are up for discussion, as well as the technologies used throughout each phase of the journey. This is part of the AI and job displacement series, and we're going to take a little different tack today, which I think is really interesting as more and more vertical AI solutions come on the market, or industry-focused solutions. We're going to talk today about impact on jobs in life sciences from the perspective of AI technology. So I think this will be an interesting discussion. And Jody, the survey that I did last month, I pulled a few things out of that just to toss out, because I thought it was. I asked a few questions on the AI survey about job displacement, and I guess the biggest thing that came out of it was that the two biggest concerns were skilled employees rather, and finding partners that were skilled. So number one and number two, actually. And yet when I ask about displacement, 77% thought that it would, create upskill opportunities. That's good. And then your job creation, 62% agreed with that. And then lastly, only 43% thought it would reduce the overall number of jobs. So fairly optimistic. And then I did pull one more out of Salesforce research. They did a survey. 64% of executives say that they'll hire more skilled workers due to generative AI. So, what do you think about that? How do you think that ties into the industry?
I think the stats that you gave are really interesting in that if you look at the two numbers, right? New job creation, 62%. A reduced overall number of jobs, there's still 43% that say, hey, there's still going to be a reduction. And I question, is it not necessarily jobs, right? The positions are still there. It's a different skill set. And what I see as the biggest challenge is that acceptance of individuals who want to learn those new skills, right? And how you training yourself to take on some new responsibilities and think in a different way manually is very different than, in my opinion, than thinking about how you change skills to do something technically, right? And you think about prompt engineering. You think about how you have to think, because you have to give it so much data on what you're looking to achieve, the persona, the goal of what you're trying. So it's almost, yes, it's a different skill set, but it's a complete different skill set for some of the roles. And I'm really excited because we're going to dive into something pretty interesting today in the life sciences side.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I would say the one thing about it, and I agree with that, there are going to be a lot of new jobs and frankly, a lot of new skills that we need to bring into this. But if you look at the automation side, I think there are clearly types of jobs that over time are going to be automated away. Doesn't mean there won't be more jobs for them to be trained into. But, I think that part of the productivity advantage is the fact that you can do more with less. But again, that means you have to have the skills to be able to do that. So I think there's also a big push against the higher education system, particularly in the US, but everywhere, to make sure that, we're not going to stick our head in the sand, that we actually are trying to train new people as they come out of school, to be able to do this, to be able to write prompts and jump in and use some of these tools.
And you said something really important, right? And I want to go back to this later when we bring Michelle in to talk a little bit more, but the schooling part, right? I still think that is one of the missing gaps in terms of the the way the education system views leveraging AI and how to use it. So we can definitely dive into that.
It's definitely all over the place. So yeah, that'd be an interesting part of the discussion, I think. So great.
I think we should bring Michelle on. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So I am so excited because Michelle, I had the opportunity to hear her at a conference last week, and this was great that this timing worked out. We were able to shift kind of the editorial schedule because this was so timely. Her presentation spoke to exactly what we've been talking about in this series, right? Michelle is the CEO and co-founder of NyquistAI. Before founding Nyquist, she was the youngest global strategy manager at Novartis AG, where she saw the universal pain point of manual and cumbersome data research and potential pitfalls if it's not done right. That experience is what inspired her to develop and build NyquistAI. Prior to Novartis, she worked for the life sciences practice for BCG and served big, innovative pharmaceutical and medtech companies on their global strategy, product development strategy, and emerging market strategies. She has her MBA from Stanford University and a BA from Peking University. Without further ado, we're going to bring Michelle on. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Judy. Hi, Michael. Great seeing you guys.
Yeah, great to have you here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said in the intro, right, you and I, we met last at a conference recently. You had standing room only in your AI sessions, which was
nice.
I saw people going out into the hallway area there. So obviously people want to hear what is going on in the life sciences, medtech, and general spaces.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in with a question because I'd like to kind of get this started at a higher level and then drill down. And one of the things that I've seen, and this is technology in general, almost always follows this. You have sort of horizontal solutions, and over time you've moved to vertical solutions. And I see this happening a lot in AI now. We've had a compressed cycle of innovation, I would call it. And so more and more companies are coming out, startups are coming out that have very vertically focused solutions, which I think are really interesting. So I'm just curious, what are the most common tasks that generative AI is currently being used for in life sciences? And what kind of innovations do you see around that?
Yeah, Michael, that's a phenomenal question. And because when I've been in life science all my career, and whenever we introduce even just a new way, a new mindset, it takes forever, like generations of people to adopt it. And they are not wrong. The clinicians and physicians and R&D professionals, they are academically trained to challenge everything and protect the old way or what is they think is the right way. But I got exciting news to share with you and the audience on the channel. So not only startups, actually big biopharmas are already adopting generative AI in the industry. We have seen like drug development and discoveries, Genentech, Roche, AstraZeneca has all adopted generative AI then in their drug discovery systems. And there's the second big one is personalized diagnosis support. Everyone is different. My treatment, your treatment, and the treatment on the audience, there's not a same leaf around the world. There's not exactly same person, even twins. So personalized diagnosis support is huge. And the third one, and also my favorite is medical reporting and documentation. There's so many routine work like you and Jody was talking about. How can we enable humans to be more efficient, to do more with less? And there are other things like extracting data from health records and patient monitoring and predictive analytics.
That's interesting. I think one of the examples I've used for quite a while on generative AI as an assistant has been in healthcare. The idea that I don't necessarily want the generative AI tool to make the diagnosis, but it would be great if it could crush enough data that the doctor could have, the top 3 potential based on all the data that they pulled in or something like that. I think to me that's a great way to kind of crystallize the idea of an assistant in a situation that provides really critical information about, kind of the whole diagnosis process. So
I was just going to give a little antidote when you were saying that. It made me think about, right, when you have a medical issue, what does someone say? Don't Google that, right? Because everybody, that's their first reaction. You go and you Google the symptoms. So in a way, right, we've been trained in some way to already do this, right? Go out to the website, put in our symptoms and see what it kicks back. And I think the difference here is now, it's verified. It's reliable information.
Well, and perhaps it goes in the hands of somebody who knows what to do with it too.
Exactly. Takes you down a path to where you actually get that diagnosis. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Michelle. You were going to say something. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. I saw it in the news that there is a boy with rare disease issues, and the family was devastated. And then ChatGPT finds the perfect cure for him. I totally agree with what you're saying, and also Mike's remarks. I think generative AI is not our enemy. To some degree, it's our friend. It's like to have assistant or a co-pilot. Humans, physicians, and professionals, they are in the driving seat to make decisions and make judgment calls, while the generative AI is like a very smart librarian, give them the right information at the right time.
I was actually just at an appointment last week, and in one of the appointments, doctor came in, we're having this conversation, in comes his assistant, she's taking notes as we're talking, and I just thought, if this is not the perfect use case for an AI co-pilot or medical assistant, where it's taking that information and being able to distill those notes pretty quickly. I mean, I'm pretty sure doctors would like to get out of their day about 2 hours sooner by not having to do all this paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. Like there is a joke among my physician friends, like they cannot tell whether it is a handwriting of physicians or modern art.
I agree with that 100%.
That would be my handwriting. I don't know about it. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you can't read your own handwriting.
The next question that I had was actually all around benefits. Like, what do you see as some of the benefits in this space? And you've kind of touched upon several of them. But if you had to pick what you think would be the top 2 or 3 main benefits to the life sciences space leveraging AI tools, what would those be?
Yeah, that's again, great question. I'm sure you, Mike, and all the audience on the channel have their pain of searching through data and validate them and bang their head against the wall to find the perfect solution. If there's a major 2 benefits of leveraging generative AI in life science, is for the very first time, human experts can get rid of all the tedious tasks that is repetitive and is manual, and let generative AI do the work. Imagine 20 to 30% of those tasks can be done by generative AI. We will see, say, a breakthrough of human creativity and decision making for the very first time in the life science industry. And second, it's like a team effort. For the very first time, we can see a human expert paired up with a very cool co-pilot to really give them the right information at the right time. Physicians or the R&D head, they got so many going on and life happens. They may not have they may not in the right mindset, right time, or have the equipped with the right information, giving that a million things happens in a day. And especially in life science industry is ever changing. So having a cool pilot to give them the right information at the right time is really unbelievably amazing. It's like watching a science fiction with a happy ever after ending.
Before, Michael, I know that you had another question that you're going to ask, but just to follow on to that, because I'm curious, in heavily regulated industries, life sciences, finance, I would tend to think there's a little bit more of a slower adoption and embracing curve, right? Because it's it's a longer process to get things approved. So I'm curious. You had mentioned a couple large companies at the beginning and their acceptance and embracing of this technology, but how does being in a regulated industry impact the ability for organizations to take advantage of the technologies quickly, right? I mean, they can't just wake up the next day and go, you know what, I want to start using that tool and put this into my process. So what are your thoughts on that kind of lag time between when something comes out and the true ability for these industries to be able to take advantage of what's happening in the marketplace?
Yes, that's a very deep question. I would go back to the early beginnings when we're opening up this episode. We talk about the education piece. Recently, Harvard Business Review just have an article that has a very astonishing number on everyone in life science will want to learn about AI. However, only 7% of the employees were ever given the necessary trainings to learn what is really about generative AI. They barely understood AI or traditional AI, and now it's like a new term. So the education part is a big piece. Previously, because if we look at the people who are practicing medicine or who are making decisions in drug discovery and medical device discoveries, those people have gone through vigorous training. The entry barrier of life science is very high. So like it really requires a lot of education on the industry, and also for the tech world to really listen to the industry. It's not like selling to hospital or get the big pharma to change their R&D flow. It's not like download an app of making selfies on your smartphone. So I think it's necessary. I actually embrace the ramp up curve. I think going for education and going for small wins are the right path. And I think this episode is really extremely helpful, and I can see it getting very popular among the industry, because Jody, when we were at the conference, the floor was full and people was like standing there, just 3-layer people, and coming in, it's like, oh, I really want to learn about the fundamental technology. How can we have the right framework? What other people are doing? It's like the willingness and the eagerness to learn and to know is really strong in that room. So I think as the education piece is going to be the one that really moves the needle.
I'm going to make a prediction first time ever on In the Hot Seat. It's Jody's prediction.
Ooh, we have to write this down. Hold on.
Yeah, write this down. Are you ready? I'm even ready to go into solo mode for this, but I believe that AI is going to become one of the core classes within the education system, just like you have science and your math. It is going to become a core class because it's going to be fundamental in absolutely everything that we do.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think, if you think about the ability, I mean, even simple things like, when you first started using Google search, you couldn't use Google search very well, right? You had to learn how to use it. You had to learn the way to ask the questions. And the same thing's true with this. If you know how to write the prompts, you can get the right answer. But if you don't, you won't get any answer, or you won't get a useful one anyway. So you talk about the positive pieces of this, and I'm excited about AI in general. But as you look at it, there's always risk as well. And so I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think the risk of using generative AI in life sciences, and then particularly in the context of, of this series of job displacement? How do you see that playing out in the life sciences? Is it a threat to jobs? Will it create more jobs? What do you think?
Yeah, I really like this question because as someone come from big pharma, come from the industry, whenever I see any solutions, either a tech solution or any proposal, the first thing I think of is the risk. What are the risks? What are the limitations? I'd like to answer that question with a story. I think I just got back from Boston and had a terrible delay. So I was trained at the airport for 5 hours. So of course, when I think of this episode, I thought about my experience of taking airline and travel by air. And there was like a famous story of an airline crash caused by the crew just so fixated on a checklist that is outdated. I think generative AI, even though we are still at its infancy, will quickly be obsolete. What we talked about today could potentially be obsolete in the next 6 months simply because the technology is developing so quickly. I think the jobs at risk that traditionally like routine work, if for some analysts, junior analysts, if their job is just collecting data, download report, then generative AI can do it much faster and much more efficient with comprehensive data. Some creative and analytical work tasks will also be optimized. And when it comes to specific job displacements, I think generative AI does present risks in first, like data quality. Jody mentioned about with great data comes great results. Like the data is extremely important. In movie industries, having a typo is not going to kill anyone and maybe like disappoint some audience. But in life science, like a lot of people could do that with just a typo. So, and the second is like over dependence on tech. I do not see that as an immediate trend, but if without a good framework of combining human experts with AI, I could see that could be a risk of over dependence on technology. And I'm a woman and I'm minority. I'm an immigrant, so diversity and inclusion is always on the top of my mind. I do believe generative AI will create a bigger and bigger gap between the generative AI aware and the generative AI woke people and not so woke people. And unfortunately, our modern society hasn't created a lot of education resources to women, to people in like less developed areas to learn about this amazing like life transforming technologies. So I think the podcast again is really helpful to educate the audience and level up the field to contribute to the diversity and inclusion of the life science workforce.
Yeah, when I talk about this, sorry, Jody, I just want to follow on to this a little bit because I when I think of this, I always go, I think the idea of displacement's a pretty good way to think of it because it's not replacement.
Exactly.
But it is going to change, and every time we've seen major changes, we've seen it change, right? I mean, you change from agrarian to industrial, and the different phases of industrial, or to digital, or cloud, all these different technologies. So, I mean, it seems like it's incumbent then that we put frameworks in place to make sure that we're not just educating new people that are coming into the workforce, but the current workforce and upskill. I mean, what have you seen this? You've talked about some of the larger companies that are doing this. I mean, is this something that bigger companies are thinking about? Are they trying to reskill their workforce? Are they trying to change the work to match the newer technologies?
Oh, they are already doing it. And I really like the terms of job displacement rather than job replacement. And recently I was invited by a CRO and their C-levels, even the CTO were together with the head of HR, was like really interested in how can we upscale our current task force to make them future ready. Almost all the organizations, big and small, are latching on this opportunity. And if we can maybe escape our bodies and look really, really far ahead from a helicopter view, the traditional concept of job placement is created under human content. And generative AI is like why generative AI is so unique. It is compared with is because compared with traditional AI, for the very first time, generative AI can create such rich and complex output. To some degree, it's even better than human creations. So when we look at the job as a concept, there's human experts, jobs for human experts. There's also job for AI. We are only looking at the tasks that's previously or currently being done by human experts and thinking how we upscale them. We haven't even touched on the jobs that human couldn't or don't want to do that can be done by generative AI.
Actually, that is a perfect segue into my next question about, giving some examples in the life sciences space about how generative AI is already at play. And this is really right what kind of made me go, ooh, when I was listening to your presentation. Michael, we have a couple of slides that I think speak really showcase the power behind how AI is changing that skill set. So I'd love you to talk through some of this, Michelle, if you could, please.
Yeah, definitely. So my personal favorites are 3 ones. And again, I would encourage the audience to try and start with small things. The first use case is on product launch. And everyone knows everyone has done a product launch or have friends in product launch, understand the pain to aggregate all the insights globally and make sense of the data so you can prioritize your product launch. And Jody, you mentioned a very good point about big companies, especially with big companies. They have the resources, they have people on the ground to understand the global insights. However, with generative AI, generative AI can very quickly assess all the global insights and help either pharma company or medical device company to optimize their specific product launch. For example, you may have a new drug, say oncology drug or device. Maybe you have a lot of competitor in the US because the favorable reimbursement investment opportunities. However, in Europe or in some country or in Japan, this oncology drug will be perfect for the local community. You will get favorable launch policies by the local government. Previously, it is very hard to achieve. But now with generative AI, this particular use case and this particular company, they were able to launch their product in China 7 months ahead of their best estimation. And they got green channel approval, they got favorable reimbursement policy. So this is all thanks to generative AI.
And I love this up on the benefit that is pointed out on your slide, right? This is what really made me go, oh, this is perfect. Empowering the junior consultants to deliver work that is at a level that they may not necessarily have the skill set for at this time, yet leveraging AI, they are able to meet that outcome expectation. So I think this spoke volumes to how it helps kind of reskill the talent pool.
Yeah, Jody, that's a beautiful point. And I would like to say to I still consider myself a student, and sometimes I learn my best the best business ideas come from our interns or new hires, and take Gmail as example. Gmail is now have I think 90%, 93% of market penetration. And guess what? It was invented by an intern, a 19-year-old intern when Google hired just, back in those days. So I think the big thing differentiates a senior to junior team is the industry expertise, the tribal knowledge. And generative AI could be a very rich knowledge sensor for the junior people, especially now remote work is a thing. It's very hard to shadow the senior managers and senior leaders, especially Zoom provides some flexibility, but also take away the human element and the apprenticeship to some degree. And generative AI can really help to fill in the gap.
That is excellent.
You want the next slide?
Yes, please.
Sure.
So next slide. I think everyone in life science industry have heard about clinical trials, and the sad fact is that 80% of clinical trial in this country, in US, could not enroll patients in time, and 20 to 30% of clinical trial sites never enroll patient at all. That's 20 to 30% of pure investment loss, human labor loss, and time loss. And with generative AI, for the very first time, we can look at all the sites that has ever done a clinical trial, and all the patient has ever been recruited, and all the PI, which stand for primary investigator, who has done the trial, to come up with optimized solutions that we have the right people to conduct the trial, the right patient for this trial, and the right indication based on specific country level and based on specific disease level. And this is a client that they don't even know it's possible, but they were able to come up with the clinical trial design and really with faster, cheaper, and better results.
I'm just shocked at the impossible to not even a full day and 156,000 devices analyzed. That's staggering.
Yeah, because before, those data were either very difficult to achieve, and you really need people who understand the local language, whether it's in German, Italian, Spanish, and on top of the language knowledge, you also have the industry knowledge. Heart failure can mean, the feeling of the heart in English in the US, but could mean completely different thing in Japanese. So generative AI can really help to remove the language barrier and the tribal knowledge and industry know-how to give you really fast response by digesting huge volume of data that no human beings could ever possibly achieve, and let you make decisions.
Michael, I think we have one more, right, to show?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. This is my, actually my personal favorite is supercharged regulatory affairs to win big, because with clinical trials, with product launch, it may take years and cross-function team to make decision, where when it comes to documentation, the ROI of generative AI is very immediate, and it does not touch any sensitive data of either patient or physician data. So in this particular case, there's a lot of routine work when it comes to FDA submission and other documentations. Generative AI were very quick, was able to be deployed in this use case. And the consultants, the FDA consultants, can feel confident that they have the complete data to present the benefits of their product to get FDA approval.
again, the days are just that's just shocking to me, the amount of time savings. I mean, you hear time savings, but when you see these numbers, I think that's when you really have that aha moment, right? It's one thing to talk about them. It's another thing to see it in the proof points of like, this is what actually happened.
Yeah, and I would, even though I'm from Silicon Valley, I would encourage we have the mindset from moonshot to soon shot, because like with clinical trial, even you have the perfect solution, it takes years to show. And with product launch, we got lucky. They got the product launch approval 7 months ahead of their best estimation. So it's already have a benchmark there with regulatory and documentation writings and documentation summaries. It's very easy to show the ROI. You can have the old way and just like see how quickly people can write and can find the result. Well, on the other side, let the generative AI to give you the prompt or give you the answer. It's much easier to demonstrate the ROI and much easier to implement.
I mean, amazing productivity increases, which I think is, something that we talk about a little, but I'm not sure we've seen it quantified in exactly that way. But that's a tremendous advantage, and it makes me think like we've seen this happen pretty quickly, and typically, we underestimate the future when we think about the technology. So I'm curious then, what do you think? How is this going to evolve over the next, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, as people get more and more comfortable with applying this in the life sciences?
That's a very deep question, and I think it's I think Jody will be perfect to answer it, since she's writing a book called Jody's Predictions.
There you go. I'm looking for that one.
Yeah. I would like, he has a very famous quote that just stuck in my brain as I was taking questions at the conference that Jody and I went to. He said, like, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And luckily, life science industry, even though seems to operate at a slower pace when it comes to technology adoption, it really have compounding impact, because it's connected to everyone. It's it affects every single moment of our lives. I think the hardbound of GPU, like right now, NVIDIA stock is over the roof and everyone is still trying to buy the computing power. I think in 5 to 10 years, that limitation will be removed, because with the demand of generative AI and the demand of computing powers, I think there will be a lot of hardware providers that try to solve the issue. And I would see there will be more automations, which leads to maybe the best enlightenment movements in life science industry. Because previously I've as a state of quo, almost every physician friend I have, like every life science executives, they are buried with routine tasks, paperwork, and a lot of manual work that can be really automated by generative AI. And with that saved time and brain power, we will see the best decision making powers in the history of life science. That's my philosophy.
I think I just found my co-author for my book. Michelle, we'll need to talk.
Yeah, I will be honored.
Keeping that lens on, though, question about people who are coming out today, getting into the life sciences space, people who are in the life sciences space. What advice would you give them about how to position themselves for that future, the future in life sciences leveraging AI?
That's a that's a fantastic question. I think the best way, in my personal opinion, the best way to prepare for the future is to be in the driving seat of the future. Again, I think I'm a hybrid. I came from the industry, life science industry, and now I've been in Silicon Valley almost for 10 years. The tech world will be it will never catch up with the nuances, how profound, how deep, and how sophisticated the life science industry is. Life science industry is dealing with life and death every single day. So that magnitude is beyond any analytical capability of the tech industry. So I think it's a really phenomenal opportunity for everyone in life science industry to be in the driving seat of generative AI. How they see the use case will evolve, how they will adopt generative AI in their work, how they will make better decisions by leveraging generative AI. And especially we are in a very interesting history of time because the majority of the current workforce in life science, the nurses and the physicians, will face a huge retirement wave in the next 5 to 10 years. The new generation will be fundamentally different. They are equipped with computer, internet, AI, probably since the day they were born, and they will be AI native when it comes to their workforce when it's their moment to shine. And I want to emphasize that generative AI will never replace human experts, but human professionals who leverage generative AI, who learn how to harness the power of generative AI, will replace the professional, the workforce that do not embrace generative AI.
If you were talking to somebody who is in life sciences today and they are in an area that could be disrupted, what would you tell them? I mean, what kind of specific skills, knowledge, what could they do to make themselves more competitive in the workforce going forward?
That's a great question. So first, I will send the link of this episode to them. And second, I think so for them to start education and training program, or like provide some resources so that they can have the right language, right building blocks to start with. And also for them is to take a holistic look at their work and what are the repetitive, tedious work that can be automated, and try it with generative AI. A lot of people think that, if I try this, I may be replaced. Actually not. I really believe that if life science professionals give generative AI an opportunity, they are actually giving themselves opportunity to embrace the technology and experience the work environment they never had before.
Michelle brought up a really good point, Michael, that we've actually never touched upon in any of the episodes that we've been talking with. Michelle, you spoke specifically to the generation that is almost at retirement, right? The outgoing individuals.
Yeah.
AI potentially could have some disruptive play in that segment, right? Because at what point do you go, you know what? Yes, I'm okay. I'm going to embrace this change, even though I'm only in this position for the next, 2-3 years potentially. So it might get some people thinking about an exit strategy sooner rather than later. And that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that before. We are always talking about the people coming into the space as opposed to those who are exiting but not really there yet. Lots to think about.
Yeah, Jody, that's a beautiful point. Actually, right after my presentation, there is a gentleman from Harvard Medical School came in. He's like, he's about to retire, but he does not want to. He have all those knowledge. He's like, oh, if I leave my hospital, where my students, where my patients will have access to the tribal knowledge and the industry knowledge and the domain expertise. And generative AI can really turn all his knowledge into almost like a virtual doctor or a virtual brain that continue to live on and still benefits generations and patients to come.
And that was the perfect segue to our outro. You just closed the show out perfectly, Michelle. I mean, I do. There's more that I definitely want to dive into, but we are out of time for today. And Michelle, you've survived the hot seat, so thank you.
Thank you.
To the audience, if you have what it takes to be in our hot seat, please let us know. We're always looking for guests to take the conversation in some new ways. That's it for your episode today. I'm one of your hosts, Jody Spencer.
And I'm Michael Fauscette. Tune in next time for different faces, different topics, and different perspectives as we put someone different in the hot seat.
Have a great day, everyone.